Hey everyone, ever get that feeling like there's this whole secret code hidden in plain sight, like right there in the text we see every day?
Right.
Well, buckle up because today we're going to crack the code of regular expressions.
Regexes.
Regexes, yeah, exactly.
It's kind of wild how these little snippets of code are like everywhere, right? Like websites, databases.
Even our phones.
Yeah. But most people have no idea they're even there, you know?
It really is like this hidden layer of logic that's making the digital world go round.
Uh-huh.
So for anyone hearing about regexes for the very first time, just imagine if you could search for anything.
Anything.
Not just a word, but like a pattern.
A pattern.
Like every single email address in a huge document, or say every phone number that starts with a certain area code.
That's exactly it. That's the power of Regex. It's not just keywords, it's defining a pattern.
Pattern, yeah.
You get so much more control that way.
Oh, yeah.
Think about like checking if a password follows all the rules, or like finding all the dates in a messy text file.
Well, that's a good one.
That's where Regexes really shine.
So for this deep dive, we've got these two awesome guides. We got Regex, Perl, Python, Java, etc.pdf, and regular expressions quick reference.pdf.
Those are great resources.
Yeah, they're like our decoder rings for this whole secret language.
You know, and what's super cool is once you learn these patterns, you can use them across so many different tools and languages.
It's very portable.
It is.
So our mission, if you choose to accept it, is to give everyone a taste of this power enough to like wrap your head around what regexes are, see them in action, and hopefully walk away with some ideas for how you could use them.
Exactly. We'll start simple, build up to some neat tricks, and by the end, you'll see why, even if you're not, you know, a coding guru.
Even if you're not super technical.
Yeah, this is good knowledge to have.
I love it. Okay, so cracking open these sources, the first thing that kind of jumps out are all these weird symbols. We call them meta characters.
Right.
A little intimidating at first glance, not going to lie.
Yeah, they look like gibberish, I know.
Total gibberish.
But each one actually has a meaning. They're like the building blocks of the Regex language.
Like the alphabet almost.
Yeah. For instance, the period, the dot, that usually matches any character except for a new line.
So, like if I wanted to find, say, any three-letter word, I could use 3 dots in a row.
You got it.
Like ...
That's your Regex, yeah.
That's my regex.
And you can get more specific too, like D, that'll match any digit.
Okay.
So if you wanted a sequence of 3 digits, it'd be D, D, A, D.
Huh. Interesting.
Or duh matches any word character. So letters, numbers, underscore, all that.
Okay, I think I'm starting to see the logic here.
Yeah.
Instead of typing out every single possibility, you're using these symbols as shortcuts.
Precisely. You're describing the pattern.
Describing the pattern.
And it gets even cooler. You have symbols like that little hat symbol, the carré, which matches the beginning of a line, and the $ for the end.
So you can find a word only if it's at the start of a line. That's pretty powerful.
It is. And we're just getting started. There are quantifiers to say how many times a character or group should appear. Yep. Special characters for white space and other stuff. It's a whole system.
It is a whole system. We are literally decoding a secret language here.
We are.
But, okay, real talk for a sec. How do people actually use this stuff in real life? This feels kind of abstract still.
Well, that's where things get really fun.
Okay, I like fun.
Our source has this awesome section called the Regular Expression Cookbook. It's basically recipes for common text processing tasks.
Ooh, I love a good cookbook analogy.
Right.
What kind of recipes are we talking?
Well, think about validating an email address, like making sure it's the right format.
Oh, that's important.
Or extracting all the URLs from a web page.
Ooh.
Or even something as simple as removing extra spaces from a messy text file.
Oh my gosh. I actually deal with that all the time.
Yeah.
I am constantly cleaning up data that's full of like weird spacing.
You're telling me
It's a pain.
You're telling me a Regex could do that automatically for me? Absolutely. That's just one example. There are tons of everyday problems that Regexes can solve.
No need to reinvent the wheel, huh?
Exactly.
Okay, so email validation, check. URL extraction, check. What other delicious recipes are we looking at?
Well, how about finding duplicate words, like when you accidentally type the
Oh my gosh, yes.
you know, those kinds of errors?
Eyes just skip right over them when I'm editing.
Well, a Regex can catch them for you.
Really?
You would use something like, and I know this looks crazy, but B, W plus, B plus 1B.
I'm trusting you. I'm trusting you.
We'll break it down later.
Okay, good. But the point is, this can find any repeated word.
Any repeated word?
Without me even having to say what the word is.
That's right.
That is wild.
Yeah.
That is some next level stuff.
That's the magic of capture groups, which we'll talk about more later.
Okay.
You're basically saying, find a word, remember it, and then see if it appears again right after.
Mind officially blown. I'm starting to see the power here. Like, you could build some seriously powerful tools with these regexes.
Oh, absolutely.
But before we go building our Regex empire, is there anything else we need to know about the basics before we dive into the real-world stuff?
Yeah, actually, one more thing, and this might be a little surprising. Regexes, you see, while similar in concept, they can have slightly different, well, flavors, depending on where you're using them.
Flavors. Like Regex ice cream.
Haha, not quite as delicious, but just as important.
Okay.
Different programming languages.
Oh, okay.
Text editors, even operating systems. They might have their own little quirks in how they handle regexes.
So it's like the same language, but with different accents.
Exactly.
Does that mean I have to learn a whole new set of rules for every tool I use?
Not at all.
Okay, good.
The core concepts, the meta characters, the quantifiers, capture groups, those all stay mostly the same.
Okay.
It's more like, once you know the main language, picking up a new dialect is pretty straightforward.
So the foundation we're building here will apply pretty much everywhere. That is a relief. Okay, phew.
And now that we have a little taste of the fundamentals, I think it's time to see some of these regexes in action.
Let's do it.
Yeah, crack open that cookbook
Okay.
and start, whipping up some solutions to real-world problems.
I am so ready. This is way more exciting than I thought regexes would be.
Oh, just wait. You're about to unlock a whole new level of text processing power.
Oh, boy.
You'll never look at a block of text the same way again.
I believe it. All right, let's get cooking. Okay, we've got our decoder rings. We've seen how powerful these patterns can be.
Right.
I'm ready to see these things in action. Where do we start with this whole regular expression cookbook thing?
Ooh, well, one recipe that's always useful is validating email addresses.
Okay.
Think about all those online forms.
Right.
They got to make sure you're entering a real email.
Right, not just a bunch of gobbledygook.
Yeah, got to keep those spam bots out.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But how does a regex actually do that? I mean, email addresses has so many variations,
That's the cool part. A well-written regex, it can handle all that.
Okay.
It basically defines a set of rules.
Okay.
Like, must have an @ symbol, then a domain name with at least one period.
Okay, so it's like a super specific filter.
Exactly.
Only lets correctly formatted emails through.
Yeah, got it. And you can get really fancy with it, too.
Oh, wow.
Checking for specific top-level domains, making sure certain characters aren't allowed.
So it's like instead of writing a bunch of code to check every single rule,
Yeah,
you just give the regex the whole problem and say, go.
precisely. That's why programmers love them.
Yeah, it's like a shortcut.
It is. It condenses all that logic.
Okay, so email validation, check. What other tasty recipes are in this cookbook?
Well, how about extracting all the URLs from a web page?
Okay.
Super useful for things like web scraping or any data analysis that involves pulling links.
Oh, so this is how search engines figure out what pages to index.
You got it. Regexes are a huge part of how search engines work.
They're crawling the web with these regexes.
They are, yeah. Identifying links, images, headings, all that stuff.
It's not just finding information, it's understanding how it's all structured.
Exact.
That's pretty amazing when you think about it.
It is, and it goes even further. Regexes can help with things like data cleaning.
Data cleaning.
Removing weird characters, standardizing formats, even fixing typos and big data sets.
Wait, really? So I could use a regex to, find every instance of color and change it to color?
Absolutely.
Wow.
Or find all phone numbers and add the country code.
These regexes are like the Swiss Army knife of text processing.
Haha, I love that. They really are super versatile.
And the best part is, once you learn the basics, you can use them in pretty much any language, right?
That's right.
Speaking of languages, you mentioned earlier that different languages have their own flavors of regex.
Yeah.
I got to know more about that.
Okay, yeah.
What kind of differences are we talking about here?
Well, let's take a look at a few popular ones. Perl, Java, and Python, they each have their own little quirks, even though the main ideas are the same.
Okay, let's start with Perl.
Okay.
I've heard it's like the OG regex language.
That's right. Perl's had powerful regex support from the very beginning.
Yeah. Our source mentioned something about Perl using a traditional NFA engine.
Uh-huh.
What does that even mean for someone writing regexes?
Okay, so without getting too technical, an NFA engine, that stands for Non-Deterministic Finite Automaton.
Oh, boy.
I know, right?
That sounds complicated.
It's a type of algorithm that basically tries out multiple possible paths through your regex to find matches.
So it's like trying different routes on a map to find the destination.
Exactly.
Okay.
And Perl gives you a lot of control over this process with these special modifiers that tweak how the engine works.
It's like fine-tuning the search, right?
Precisely.
Get the results you want.
Yeah, and Perl also has a bunch of built-in operators that make working with Regexes super convenient.
So Perl is like a Regex powerhouse.
It is.
Now, how does Java compare to the OG?
Well, Java came to the party a bit later, but it caught up quick. With version 1.4, they introduced a whole package just for regexes.
Dedicated package, nice.
Yeah, it's called java.util.regex.
Catchy.
I know, right?
And it says Java also uses a traditional NFA engine.
It does.
So does that mean it works pretty much the same as Perl?
In the basics, yeah, but Java being Java, it's a bit more, object-oriented. You've got classes like pattern for compiling your regexes and matcher for actually using them.
So it's a bit more structured.
Yeah.
Than Perl's like free-flowing style.
That's a good way to put it. It can be a little more verbose, but it's also really good for big projects.
Where you need to keep things organized.
Exactly.
That makes sense. So Perl's the veteran. Java is the architect.
Yeah.
And then you have Python.
Right.
Which is like, what, somewhere in between?
Kinda, yeah.
It's got that rich syntax like Perl. But also, Python's all about readability, right?
Exactly. Python always finds that balance.
It does.
Between power and, ease of use.
So it's the best of both worlds.
Yeah. Python even has this thing called raw strings.
Raw strings. What's that?
It makes writing regexes easier. You don't have to worry so much about escaping special characters.
Oh, that's nice.
It avoids a lot of headaches.
I can imagine all those backslashes. Yikes.
Yeah, Python just keeps things clean.
So we got Perl the pioneer, Java the architect, and Python the elegant blend.
I like that.
Sounds like each one has its strengths for working with regexes.
They do. The best choice really depends on what you're doing. The project, your own preferences.
So the key takeaway is learn the core concepts, then see how your favorite language handles it.
Exactly. And don't be afraid to experiment.
Oh, yeah.
Try different tools, different languages.
The more you play with it, the better you get.
Exactly. And the more you'll appreciate just how powerful regexes can be.
Okay, I'm feeling pretty confident with the basics now.
Good.
Ready to level up. You mentioned there are some even more advanced techniques. Lookarounds and atomic grouping, they sound kind of scary.
Well, a little bit.
Should we dive into those now?
I think we should.
Okay.
Those are like the secret weapons of the Regex world.
Oh, boy.
They give you even more control over your patterns and can help you solve some really tough problems.
All right, let's do it. Bring on the secret weapons.
Yeah.
All right. My brain is officially prepped and ready for those, next level Regex moves you were talking about.
Okay, good.
Lookarounds and atomic grouping.
Excellent. It's like we've learned the basics, right?
Right, the punches and kicks.
Now it's time for the combos.
Okay, I like it. So lookarounds first, what makes them so special?
Think of it like adding conditions to your search, but without actually including the condition in the result.
Okay.
So imagine you want to find the word apple, but only if it's followed by pie.
Oh, like a Regex for deliciousness.
Exactly. You'd use what's called a positive look ahead.
A positive look ahead, okay.
And it would look something like apple pie.
Okay, so that pie part.
That's the look ahead.
That's the look ahead. So it's checking if pie is there, but it doesn't actually grab it.
You got it. It's like peeking ahead without changing what you're actually taking.
Okay, I like that. And you said there are different types of lookarounds.
Yeah, there are negative look-aheads to exclude things, look-behinds for checking what comes before the match.
It's like super specific.
Yeah, they give you a lot of control.
Okay, lookarounds, check. Now, what about atomic grouping? That sounds pretty hardcore.
This one's a bit trickier.
Okay.
It has to do with how the Regex engine actually works behind the scenes.
Okay.
So sometimes when it's trying to find a match, it might tentatively match one part and then have to backtrack if it doesn't work out.
Like trying different paths in a maze.
Perfect analogy. And atomic grouping basically says, once you've matched this group, commit to it. No going back.
No going back, even if it means the whole thing fails.
Yep. Even if it means the whole match fails.
That's intense. Why would you want to do that?
Well, two main reasons. Performance and avoiding weird errors. Sometimes backtracking can be really inefficient, or it can lead to matches you weren't expecting.
Right.
Atomic grouping helps prevent that.
So it's kind of like saying, I'm sure about this part, let's optimize for it, even if it's risky.
Exactly. It's a tool for fine-tuning, for really controlling how your Regex behaves.
Okay, this is a lot, but I'm starting to get it.
Good.
It seems like Regexes can get really complex, but also really powerful.
Oh, absolutely. And we've only scratched the surface. There's so much more to explore.
I believe it. We've just touched on the tip of the iceberg.
Yeah. There are tons of other advanced techniques, resources out there to help you really master Regex.
So for our listener who's maybe just starting out with all of this, what's the key takeaway about these more advanced features?
I think it's that you don't have to be a
Okay.
Even just understanding the basics can change how you work with text.
Right. It's more about knowing what's possible.
Exactly. It opens up new ways of thinking about things.
It's like now that I know these things exist, it changes how I think about searching and working with data.
That's great. And the more you learn, the more possibilities you unlock.
Yeah, it's kind of empowering.
It is. Instead of being limited by your tools, you can bend them to your will with a little bit of Regex magic.
I love it. Any final words of wisdom before we wrap up our deep dive into the Regex universe?
Yeah, don't be intimidated.
Right.
Start small, play around with some of the examples in that regular expressions cookbook.
Yeah, great resource.
And remember, the internet is your friend. There are tons of tutorials, cheat sheets, even online Regex testers that you can use.
So many resources out there to help you learn. Couldn't agree more. Well, this has been another fascinating deep dive.
Yeah.
Huge thanks to you for breaking down this whole world of Regexes for us.
My pleasure.
And to our listeners, we hope you enjoyed the journey. Until next time, happy pattern matching.